So my name is Ellis. I did the Himalaya Studies or Nepal semester in the spring of 2012. Oh, before planning, that's a good question. So I think my experience was perhaps different than some people who end up approaching a gap year. I remember from the time I was really young, my mom had kind of like encouraged me to take a gap year. She didn't take one, but she knew I was going to be young, graduating from high school. So I was always planning on taking a gap year, even before I really had any idea of what
Mm.
that meant. Um, and I think so I had done another semester with Carpe Diem education in the fall before I did my dragon semester. And I think the thing that I was always that I grew used to, but was still sometimes hard to like wrap my heart around, was just like being on the plane and feeling like you've made the biggest mistake. Even though like in not even subconsciously, like consciously I knew it was going to be amazing, but there was still that little like fear of like the getting there part. It's like once you get there it's going to be awesome, but the getting there part was always um I think something that just like stressed me out. It wasn't necessarily a fear, but it was just like that was the stressful part for me. Before Well, and maybe it's just easier to dive in. I feel like I thought that my gap year would give me all of the answers, and that I would have like a clear path after that. And so maybe before, like I thought that there would be a clear path. And what my semester and my gap year showed me more than anything was that there are like 700 paths, and they're all great, and um, I don't have to choose just one path. I think my gap year ended up showing me things that I never knew I would ever be interested in, um, which as an indecisive person stressed me out because I wanted to know what to do. um, but and then after and I'm still working on this, just trying to be more comfortable with the fact that everything is changing and I can do a lot of different things, and my semester helped me with that. Yes. um and it kind of took my mom to remind me of this. I broke my foot the second day we were in Nepal. We didn't figure that out until like 2 weeks later when my foot was still hurting. Um, and that significantly changed the course of my trip. At the end of like the Himalaya semester, usually there's like, or at least in the spring, it's at the end, like a 3-week trek. And so that was decided pretty quickly that like I wasn't going to be able to do that.
Mm.
Um, and that was something that I had been looking forward to. And I was like I had just started like taking these dance lessons, like I was gonna dive into dance. And so I couldn't do that, like I couldn't do trek. Um, but it opened up so many doors for me. Like I ended up staying in Kathmandu by myself, like with a family, a different family. Um, and that family like invited me back the next summer for the wedding of one of my homestay brothers. So, like I really really bonded with this family and was working with a media arts collective. um, Helping them raise money was kind of my main thing, but when I went back, like I helped them with like this mural project. I my first so on my semester, part of what we were doing was just like raising awareness about this project. So we got in touch with like these people who were doing radio. So I had my first like radio experience, which ended up being a huge part of my like college career, and like the podcasting world. So it was, yeah, something that at first was like, oh great, my foot's broken, like do I have to go home? But my instructors and everybody really worked with me to create this new experience for me. And it really, really did, I think, alter a lot of my interests in my life. Oh yeah. I remember just like sitting there in our program house with Claire and Jaffe and Gavin like across from me and just like, you can't go on trek, and just like sobbing, just like so sad. But something that I said out loud to them there, and I don't really know where it came from, but I said, like, there's always a light somewhere. And I don't remember like how, I don't know, like how that came out of my mouth, but that I think is what I really like tried to take away from it. And I remember then like going down like to the rest of the group, and I don't remember if I told all of them like right then, or if it just kind of came out in like other conversations, but we went to a particular like stupa, Bodhanath, and just like walking, I don't know, like walking around the stupa was, I think, really helpful for me in terms of like finding that light and finding that center for myself. Yeah, just like, and having to believe that there was going to be something beautiful that was going to come out of it, even if at first it seemed like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think I think what I would tell myself, I ended up, I think, kind of spending a decent amount of money on the like the little like phone cards to be able to like call home. And because I was in, I think that, well, I don't know, I think there are a lot of reasons, but because I was in the city and had access to cell service for maybe longer than some of the other people in my group, like I wish I had told myself just like really put down the phone. Like I feel like I feel like I was still very connected like to my experience there. But I did have some things that were like kind of tying me back to the States, and I wish I had told myself to just like really like cut that off. I think paneer. I had my first like paneer experience, and that was revolutionary. This cheese. So one of the families that I stayed with, it's usually found in more Indian cuisine, but one of the families that I lived with, the dad was Indian, so I think my mom ended up making some more like Indian inspired food. So paneer is this cheese that they put with other like vegetables and like curry sauce things. You eat it with rice. It's so good. There are a few, and I feel like this is like way too, there were like three words that popped into my mind. Pariwar is one of the first ones, which means family. Asha, which is the name that they gave me, that I still like use a lot, means hope. And so maybe that played into my foot thing too. I had this name given to me, Asha, and so there was just like always this hope. And then another is fool, which means flower. The community that you end up being a part of without even knowing it. Yeah, that's something that I feel like I'm just kind of coming to right now. So usually based in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the Twin Cities. I work in a junior high. I'm a paraprofessional, so just like a teacher's assistant, and I'm working towards my master's in education and my teaching license. So that is a lot of my life. I still do a lot of dance, not as much as I would like, but the education world is kind of where I'm at right now.